Hello everybody, today we're going to be looking at a Ray VOD. Did you know that the best way to deal with enemies who have crowd control is to buy resilience? That's crazy. Okay, so this is the second time that I am recording this VOD, and the reason for that is because this is a 4-0 for red team. So basically, I did the VOD, it was really short, and I asked the person who submitted it, like, hey, are you sure that this is the VOD you want to be submitting? There's some stuff you can get out of this, but like it's a stomp, right? It's not a very good VOD. If you're submitting a VOD, it should be a close game, preferably a loss, right? Because those you tend to get the most out of those sorts of games, right? Here it was just like the Ray could have done anything. Why is Windows yelling at me? That's scary. All right. So the Ray could have done like anything, right? And their team probably still would have won. So there's going to be a few reasons for that. One, I think the Leon is a diamond player. There's one diamond player in this lobby. Based on kill feed, I think it's the Leon. I haven't really looked too closely. But the reason that this VOD is going to be a little different is because we're not just going to look at what the Ray could have done better. We're going to look at, like, why did blue team get rolled, right? So it'll be quick. We're going to go fast. There's going to be a lot of big concepts, a lot of big things that blue team is going to mess up, a lot of big things that the Ray is going to mess up. And we're going to go fast, but we're going to cover more of a macro scenario in ranked as soon as my game starts working. So right off the bat, before we get into it, we can talk about builds, right? So this is extension Ray, which is the bounce one. So again, we're gonna go fast. So it was mentioned that this player only really does Ray and Lilith, which you know, you do you, man. But that's if you're trying to win, that's not like the best option, right? So it's like, okay, well, how we're trying to force something suboptimal, right? So like, how do we do that? How do we take a character who is very, very hyper specific? Because if let's just talk like the meta way to play, right? It's alt battery, right? That's how you play Ray. That's when you pick Ray. But what about this sort of game? Like, what else? What else are you actually like? It's not a very good Ray game, right? It's just not good. So you also normally go focus when you go for the alt battery playstyle. So it's like, how do you make this work? So the path that this Ray player seems to have chosen is you go really generic. You say, all right, well, I'm not going to go for what my character does well, but I'm going to try to like I'm gonna play this character in like a way that another character would do better, but it's gonna like be maybe more useful this game. And so it's not necessarily like the best Ray game, but I'm gonna play Ray more like a Ying or a Damba. All right. Now Ray isn't as good as Ray or Ying or Damba in these sorts of games, right? We're trying to like pump out healing, maybe is what this Ray might be going for, judging by the build. Maybe a bit of utility with Midnight Stroll. I don't think this is good. I don't think this is how you climb with suboptimal characters. I think you just have to turbo lean into what your character does well. Because that's the only way you're going to get an advantage. If you try to play generic versus most other comps, like their draft, this draft here, this sucks, right? This is bad. This is a very bad draft. They have no damage, right? The only way they win this game is like Genos spawn ult, killing your Leon, and then Willow killing everything. That's like it. That's there's no way for blue team to win, right? Their draft is bad. They should lose every fight. So what I would really recommend is just lean into the alt battery bit. It's the only way you're gonna have an advantage ever, right? You try to go more generic. You like, if we actually look at the cards, right? This should be at 5. This should be at 5. This is fine. This is fine. So you try to like max out that alt charge. Now you give up this, right? So where does this go? Well, it's like, is this as valuable as people getting ults early? And the answer is no. So again, like maybe you change how you play Ray normally. Most of the time, like if there was if this was like your most optimal Ray game, there'd be like a Furia or a Grok or something, right? But you don't have that. Your best ult that you can maybe farm is like the Inara. Maybe you can try to like turbo farm the Inara and just get an Inara ult early, right? And that's how you look to play it. You look to force what your character is good at. So it's like same thing. If you're playing Lilith, maybe you're just I mean, there's not much you can do with Lilith. She's like she's not a great character, but like you can try to force it and maybe go morale so you can spam ults because her ult charge is fast and is good. So I really recommend going focus and leaning into what your character does well, especially if you're going to try to force things, right? So now let's talk Serpent Beach. So you can probably just see where I have my camera positioned, right? Let's draw lanes. So we have 2 lanes, and they're basically just divided by like high ground 1 and high ground 2, right? And that's where the lanes get divided. So here we have the off lane, here we have main, and here we have like a flank route. This is the most standard setup in Paladins that you will ever find. Every map is like this, except a handful, right? So what this means for you generally is that like you're gonna go offline. So all right, let's take a look at what teams do. Let's just draw the yellow lines and not move the camera, because the Ray gameplay, like I'm gonna be honest, isn't super exciting, but I think the macro stuff can be exciting. So right away, there are 5 people here. There are 4 people here. There's 1 person here. I don't even know who this is. This is the Tyra. So God knows why the Tyra is flanking. This isn't a very good play from the Tyra. But what does it mean for the 4? Right? What should you do? Well, you should play slow, because you should wait for your other person to show up. If you just run into them, you're going to take a 5v4, you're going to lose. What does this 5 want to do? We're not blue team here, but what does blue team want to do? If they, let's say they had Cassiel, they perfectly know this rollout. They know that this Tyra is over here. What did they do? They just int, because breaking news, 5 is bigger than 4. That's not. 5 is bigger than 4. So they want to go early. So the Ray, ideally, you recognize this. I got rid of my lanes. You recognize this and you play slow, right? You see how the Ruckus just gets absolutely screwed over? Like, did the Ruckus do anything wrong? Maybe it's a bit weird. Ruckus on this map is really funky. It's really hard to hold the off lane as Ruckus, so like if you were to perfectly min-max everything, you'd have Inara go here and have Ruckus go all the way around. That tends to just be a bit better. Like those characters do that better. The Inara can stop the Koa a lot better. The Ruckus gets a lot more value from flanking. Even going up mid and going up to high ground would be pretty decent. But, you know, we're talking from the Ray POV. Like, there's not much the Ray can do about that. But, like, you see how this Ruckus still, he doesn't even do anything wrong. He's shooting the other team. But he's kind of just losing because, well, even the Inara's left. This is a 5v3 now. So, of course he's losing. Now, I mean, the Ray player, it's kind of on you to recognize that. But, like, look what happens, right? The Tyra just started to push right after the Ruckus left. So now what's this Tyra going to do? What's going to happen to this Tyra? What do you think is going to happen to this Tyra? How many... numbers. Let's address the fights here. There's one fight happening. Let's draw some white. There's one fight happening. That's not white. There's one fight happening here. There's one fight happening here. As a support, you have resources. You have these cool cooldown things. They're really good, right? They're really strong. Your cooldowns are really good. Where should you put your cooldowns? Where should you put your resources? Right? You can do one of 2 things. You can make this a 2v1. You can make it a 4v2. Which one is better? Well, it's not complicated. Like, it's literally just like which number is bigger. So now this is really awkward for you, right? Because like this fight being over here, the fact that your Ruckus is now on point, my lanes, sucks. You just give up offlane. That means that the other team should be able to just control like both these high grounds here. And that means that they control like everywhere. And it sucks and you die, right? And again, that's a result of just like numbers. So maybe as a support, you recognize that, you pocket your Ruckus and hope they don't push too fast. And you get ready to leave if they do push. But for right now, what you should be doing is you should be recognizing there is a 1v1 happening. You can make that a 2v1. Go help. Now the Ray does not recognize this. And look, The Tyra's in. The Tyra got a kill somehow. Good lord, what was the Seris doing? I don't know, but she was pushing in at the same time that the Ruckus is playing his life, asking for heals. Right? So it's timing and numbers. Right? The Vora ends up winning that fight. Now, something that you'll notice throughout this game, and we can really point this out because we have the VFX on our screen right down here, is that the Ray wastes restraint a lot this game. So that's just kind of a theme for the Ray POV. Like I've watched this game from your POV. You very frequently use this ability when you just don't need to. Like, what are you? Like, let's just go to your POV real quick. What's the point? You're full HP. No one's shooting you. There's no reason to, right? But if you're over here, you put a few shots into the Leon or into the Vora, maybe she dies. Who knows? But we can address macro stuff, right? This Seris should not have died. The Tyra pulled a kill out of her hat, right? I don't know how that happened. But if the Seris doesn't just feed, if the Tyra doesn't get that kill, there's 5 people alive because blue team has only taken fights where they have a numbers advantage. Now what do they do here? Well, they just walk at you. They have 4 people alive, you have 3 people alive. Doesn't really matter what they do as long as they don't turbo feed like that Seris did, right? Like the same thing there. It's like, well, you die. It's like, well, at that point, like, that's sure, maybe that's on you. Maybe if you save Envelop there, you live. And maybe you and the Ruckus can turn a 2v1. Like, and again, like, how many fights are happening? Well, there'll be this one, and there'll be this one. And they have more people alive, right? They're going to have so they have a 3v1, and you guys had a 1v2. Now, you didn't have your cooldowns. So, you lose, right? The Vora outplayed you, for lack of a better word. You messed up, she punished you for it. So, that's sort of on you. That's sort of on you. Well, it is on you. That's on you not helping offlane, right? It's on you dropping into mid for some reason. It's on you not backing up fast enough when your team had a disadvantage. But notice how, like, you messed up restraint, maybe your heal priority. Like, you messed up, you used Envelop when you didn't need to. Maybe your heal priority wasn't fantastic. Maybe the Ruckus was low for a bit too long. But other than that, it has just been numbers. It's really simple. It's really simple. And it's very obvious from third person. But learning to recognize this stuff from first person, when you can't see the other team through walls, it's really good. Notice how the enemy team wins the 1v3. The Vora is kind of like snowballing here. But now she has to leave because it's 2v1. Maybe she gets a heal. But she still kind of has to leave. Oh, maybe? Okay, well, she gets a heal from the Seris. Unlucky, the Vora's kind of running it down. Running a train on your team. Like, again, like, what is this restraint? I can't even see you on my screen. What are you doing? What are you enveloping? So now your Ruckus. Is this a good play by your Ruckus? Do I have to say the numbers word again, or can we all recognize why this is a feed? Why is he dead? Why did he just get shield force? Oh my god, he's actually going to live. That's crazy. Wow, he's going to look at his cooldowns. He's going to do so much the rest of the fight. Right? If you... The technical term for this is getting kicked out. It's not a technical term, it's just something I yoinked from Overwatch. But the Ruckus has just got kicked out. He's alive, but he's no longer... He's a non-factor. Now that Willow feeds. Why did that Willow feed? Well, how many people did she just push into? 4 people. How many people did she have? Well, she was 1 person. Maybe she gets a Seris heal. 2v4, you lose that. Why does this Vora flank not work? Well, because you still have your cooldowns. You have, you know, you're probably healing yourself. Do you have Envelop up? You will have Envelop up. Okay, cool. You're fine, right? Why is this Inara not dead? Well, because tanks are tanky. It takes a while. Even if she is taking a 3v1 at the moment, it's going to take a while to get through her. So, right now, we have 2 fights. 2, 3, 1, 3. This is why this matters a lot, right? Because it means that somewhere your team is going to have an advantage. Somewhere you guys are going to have an advantage. So this is just dead even right here, right? This is dead even. But these people should be pushing hard. This Vora needs to be leaving hard. This is just kind of like whatever. But you need to recognize like when it's your turn. The Vora dies 2v1. Wow, crazy. Is this Ray gameplay very exciting, by the way? Because this is technically a Ray VOD review? No. Like, if you wanted to, you could have gone around with the Ruckus, but I think mid is fine. It's like, now, you have space, you have angles, right? It's great. And we talk about offlane, right? But like, if you guys had just gone up here, right? You have more options. What options? This is like why offlane is good. What options does your Ruckus have, right? Like with 1 dash, let's say 1 dash, he can get to here. With 2 dashes, he can like get to up here, or like around here maybe. But like, if he mounts and goes all the way up here, comes around, up the stairs, how many dashes does he need to get on top of the stairs? None. He can just shoot her because offlane. Then where can he get to? He can get basically anywhere. He can get to back here with 2 dashes. And he started down there? I don't think he can even get back here, much less be able to chase once he does get here if he starts from not the offline, if he goes from the flank route. So it's cool, maybe it catches people off by surprise, but realistically the Saris should be high ground, right? How does he get to the Saris if she's high ground? The answer is he can't really. It's hard. So offlane good. You can see how like for either team, like if the Willow just chilled high ground, she is absolutely free at the moment. It's a blue Willow, right? She is absolutely free. If the Ruckus goes high ground, he has more options. If you go high ground, you're a lot safer, right? And now it's awkward for them because they have to be touching soon. But like, you see how like that first pick on the Willow kind of gave you guys an advantage because the Willow just ran in and fed because numbers, right? You guys were able to clean up another kill because numbers. Now you win this fight for free because it is a 5v2. And you can also see how going offlane helps both teams a lot. So at this point the fight's done. There's nothing really to go over. You're just going to walk forward and shoot them. And again, you should really be like offlane. The fact that there's 5 people mid, again, like this is gonna like just look at this Willow, right? Like she just respawned. If she is, I love these VFX on my screen, which again, I don't know if you had to use, maybe you're trying to save a DPS, it doesn't really matter. She's right here, oh my god, this is so free. You can spam out their DPS, the Ruckus is like 1 dash, low HP. So if the Willow gets up here, this is a good angle. This is a good spot from the Willow. If you're the Willow, you play the game, you know this is probably pretty good. Even better, since you guys aren't contesting offlane at all, she can come back here. Look how good this is. LOS on their DPS. You have options to drop down. You can flutter back up. You can flutter away. You have so many good options from the offlane. The space here is really good. The Willow straight up wins the fight if she goes offlane. Now, as the Ray player, if you position yourself in the offlane, well, you can see her coming, and you can leave. Because again, you're a support. She's going to win that fight. It's a 1v1, but like her character beats yours. So. Another thing that you do pretty poorly this game is like you don't actually play this character for alt charge, and I know like we kind of talked about it at the beginning, but like you're still running. That's what your character does. Like she still has that functionality in her kit, so you know, make use of it. Charge your Inara here. I don't know what happened down here, to be honest. How's this fight up front gonna go? Like what just happened? You just killed their Willow and she killed one. Like there's just it's numbers. It's numbers. And it's like, oh god damn, your tower got hooked. She's feeding. Well, she probably dies anyways. She just gets shot because it's numbers. I love shadow travel. Now it's a 3v3. We use ult, so we have a really big advantage. Cool. Like numbers are the single biggest impact, the single biggest factor on how easy the games are. If you can have more numbers than the other team, you're just going to win. It gets interesting when the numbers are even, because then it becomes dependent on like other things, cooldowns, alts, positioning, mechanics. But until you get more until you even out those numbers, it just doesn't really get interesting. Because there has to be such a skill gap for a numbers difference to not matter. Like, to win a 1v2 or a 2v3, to win a fight after just someone gets randomly picked, you have to be better. Or you have to use like 5 alts, you know? Right now.
Alright, they getting hot.
Now this Genos feeds, right? This happens. Like, he just kind of walked down mid and died. But like, you could even isolate it to like, well, Scenario was looking at him. Okay, I don't know what Tyre's shooting. And Leon was shooting him. I was like, well, he's a support, and he was fighting 2 people. Even there. It's like their supports feed, right? Their supports feed, and your DPS shoot them. That's why this game feels easy, probably, is because you're getting 3 kills, and then the other team could have GM players. You probably still win. Like, who's going to make up for this difference, right? And I'll tell you how they make up for this difference is they take 1v1s and win them. And you know what makes it really easy to take 1v1s is when the support is completely by themselves. What happens if this Willow doesn't flutter into mid? I don't know. Where's she going? What? What is this? This is feeding. This is dumb. You know what else is dumb is that the fact she could have just fluttered towards you and killed you. Because, first of all, you've probably wasted envelop. Okay, you haven't. Good job. But, like, best case scenario, she forces ult out. Worst case scenario, she kills you. And, like, you're just down 1. So how do you change this, right? Well, we've talked about numbers. But, like, how, as a support, do you actually make numbers work in your team's favor? You don't get to make the decision of where your team goes. You are a support. You are enabling your team, right? So play with them. What's your Leon doing? Well, she's pushing. What are you doing? You're sitting back and doing nothing. What's your Ruckus doing? Well, he is deep. You can't really get to him. But at the very least, you should be matching tempo. Tempo means like the speed that you're playing at, right? So your Ruckus, right now, playing very fast. He is in the backline. Oh my god, he's 100 HP. He's going to get killed the coin. No, unlucky. Okay, cool. But like, look at what your Leon's doing. She is sliding in. What's the Willow? Like, who cares? Okay, I don't really care about the way the team's doing. But like, what are you doing? Nothing, right?
Enemy dub, look out.
We could put some like relaxing Mozart music over your gameplay at the moment, right? Your Ruckus would have heavy metal music going on in the background, and you're just vibing. You're chill. You're okay. You're vibing, right? You're a support. You don't need to do anything exciting. But like in the meantime, your Tyra's dead. Your Leon is like going to need help. Match your team's tempo. Play with your team. Play with your team. And then when they go in, you go in. When they go out, you go out. And it works because, like, let's be honest here. Their Saracen Genos have been dead for the past 10 seconds. The reason for that is because they walked down mid and got shot and died for that. Your Ruckus made a good play on the Koa and Vora, spent an ult. Turns out these ult things are really good. Maybe you can make a 1v2 happen if you have an ult. And then your Leon pushed and cleaned up because they were all low because of the Ruckus ult, right? Ruckus did a really good job there. But you did nothing. You did nothing. You could have literally been dead. Your team... Like, you could have literally done the same thing their supports did, just walked down mid and died, but it wouldn't have mattered because they also walked down mid and died more, right? And for what it's worth, you emote here if I remember right. So this is stupid. This is really dumb, right? Like, why is it dumb? Well, you have 3 people alive. How many people do they have? 4. So, again, this Genos is feeding you guys' kills. You are consistently at a numbers advantage because they are running at you and dying to random poke. This shouldn't be happening. This happens a lot in, like, lower levels, right? People just kind of, like, get shot. And to be honest, this is why, like, any competent player can kind of farm on DPS at lower levels, is because all you have to do is use cover and not die to random poke. Like, the Leon starts here. Genos is there. Like, the Leon just shoots him, right? Leon pushes up. The Genos is still over here. Just shoots him. And he dies, right? A lot of people don't use cover very well. So by taking angles, not just walking it down mid, but by actually taking angles, you just kill people for free. And that's what they're doing, right? They're just feeding, and your Leon is punishing them because your Leon is a diamond player and they're not, or whatever the ranks are. I'm assuming it's the Leon that's a diamond player. So it's not great. Like,
They're getting hot.
again, literally the same two people. So it's like, why is this game easy? Why did this game feel easy? Well, it's because these two bozos, right? And like, you get hooked, right? That's like, we can stop talking about macro stuff. Let's go back to first person. You shouldn't be on the objective. This is risky for you. Like, at this point, all you need to do is like sit back and heal, but you waste ult, which sucks. Meanwhile, your Leon is still carrying you. She's killed 4. And she's gonna kill 5? No way. She saved it too. Oh my god. Okay, so... And you buy kill deal. Don't buy kill deal. It's just not worth it. It's just not gonna make an impact ever. So... Let's go back to third person. Numbers. So... This is why stacking is really bad. It's because your team just gets all the positioning they want right now. Notice how that if you just sat back and healed on the last fight, you could have kept your Inara's full HP, and so this gets filled up. And like, look at their HP bars, and look, they've used hook, they've probably used some willow cooldowns, whatever, right? And your Ruckus is about to go in. So like, point is like using ults gives your team a resource advantage, because then your Inara can keep pressuring at the same time as your Ruckus. And wow, timing. But it's like, I don't know, anyone on their team could just go around here and punish you guys for not controlling offline. And at that point, like, your Leon is winning you the game by playing up here, because she's just gonna shoot them and they're gonna die. Like, this is the ideal scenario for like any DPS. You can just set up a scenario where they can shoot them and they die. It's just really hard to do that most of the time because they will get contested by people like off tanks and DPS, right? So what you can do to prevent this is you can also put yourself right up here or over here or whatever, right? Just play with this person in some way that isn't down there, right? You can't really help too well from down there. So that if she does get pushed, 2 versus 1. If they push 2 versus 2, well, then it's even. If it's a tank and a DPS, you probably still have to lose that, but no one probably dies, right? Whereas if she gets pushed 2 versus 1, she has to leave or she dies. Like, you notice how like you guys having control of the offlane straight up just like opened that kill onto the Sarahs. Like, I'm not going to rewind because it'll scuff spectator, but like go back 5 seconds at the bottom. Just watch how that Sarahs died because of these two, right? This is what not contesting offline does. Your Leon just abuse offline really well. And now, 1 versus 1, right? This should be even. Right, but this is a tank. And this is a DPS. In terms of like who will win these sorts of fights, tanks will beat DPS, will beat supports. In general, okay? I know there's exceptions, calm down. But in general, right? But if you're here, you have bigger numbers, so it doesn't really matter. Even if you ults. You have your envelope. But you're not there, so okay. Your Leon should have died, but the code didn't use ult. So again, your Leon is just like beating them up. But she shouldn't have. And instead, you're over here, you're fighting a 2v2. They spend ults and you die for it. Like, your team is better, right? Like, this Genos is dead. The Willow instantly died. Their Ceres is coming off respawns. The Ceres is coming off respawns. Like, their team is just consistently dead because they're walking down mid and dying. So your mistakes are costing your team. Your team is having to take even fights or fights where they're at a disadvantage, but your team is winning them because they're just walking down mid and dying a lot of the time. Like you could talk about, oh, Code didn't get ult off there. Well, your team is better. Okay, well, cool, but like it didn't. Your team doesn't have to be better. You can make it so that it doesn't matter. You can make the fights so unfair that your team can't lose. And the Willow gets the cleanup kill. It's like, wow, I really wish my support was alive so that my Ruckus could, like, notice how your Ruckus got kicked out? No HP, no cooldowns, he has to leave. He's basically dead. For less time, he's still alive. He's kicked out for less time than he would if he had died. But he still gets kicked out. And they have better respawns. And they used ults. And now you're going to walk in and, hey, how many people are alive here? Well, they have 5 people alive, you have 2 people alive, you're kind of even by yourself. That's a DPS, that's an ulting DPS no less, and you just die.
Alright, they're getting hot,
Now your Ruckus, what's going to happen to your Ruckus? How many people are alive? How many people are shooting him? How many people is he shooting? Well, it looks like it's a bit of a 4v1. I don't think he gets away with that. Oh my god, he forced a cooldown, but like who cares, he still dies. What do you think happens to this Tyra? And like, yeah, I've been talking about the same thing for 10 minutes, but like, yeah, this is kind of just how the game works. Yeah, now your Nara goes in because she has to go for touch. I wouldn't even go for touch at this point. I don't think this is winnable. But now, that's absurd, right?
Enemy dub, look out.
You make a nice play with your Leon to 2v1 the Willow, but your Nara's got 2 kills in a 1v4, okay? So, how about... Now where do you think these two should be? Which lane? Lane's in yellow. Which lane do you think that these two should have been in? Off lane. Up here. They don't die if they're not on the objective. They're safe if they're on the objective. They can even dismount the NR over here if they're not on the objective and they are in the off lane. Now they shouldn't even, by the way, for what it's worth, don't go in the flank route. This is bad. This is bad. This area is like no impact. It's really stupid. The only reason that your team's getting value out of it is because they are also going there. What should happen realistically is that if your team goes over here, they just set up like this, and you just can't do anything about this. 1 person here, 2 people here, 2 people here. It's just crazy.
Alright, they're getting hot,
Now it's like a little even. You guys get people back. And now who wins this fight? You could do this. Cover all this. And who wins this fight? Who do you think wins this fight? Well, and let's see, they have 2 people respawning, right? So like Willow's respawning and the Sarah's is respawning. So who wins this fight? You know? And you guys use an ult, which helps. Double overtime, love to see it. And now again, as the Ray perspective, where do you want to be is where you are safe right now. No. This is not safe. The Willow could just shoot you. You're in so much trouble right now. She does just shoot you. She flutters in, left click, you're dead. Right? She had Blast Flower stacks on you, assuming she's Blast Flower. Okay, so she does just kill you if she wants to, right? Because you were on the objective. If you're in the off lane, you're probably alive. And worst case scenario is that you drop. Best case scenario is that your Leon is also in the off lane and you just kill her together because it's a 2v1. The game also, so for what it's worth, the game gets interesting when like you have even numbers. Like if you, like the normal certain beach rollout is something like this, right? And then it becomes free even fights. Now the game can also get interesting when it goes into something like, let's draw lanes again actually. When it goes into something like this, what happens here? Well, blue team has the advantage here. It's even here. And red team has the advantage here. So what does red team do? These guys gotta play slow. This is even. You just play for cap. Or Miranara can do one of 2 things. Go over here, turn this into 2, give you guys an advantage. Or She can go over here, turn this into a 4, and make both of them equal. So it's that sort of decision that like is interesting, right? This is like the interesting macro gameplay of Paladins. You can literally like replace all of the characters with little chess pieces, little pawns, right? And just moving them around. And like you get the fundamentals down. Now it gets interesting because we're not moving chess pieces around. We're moving characters with alts and cooldowns and items and input methods. And it gets interesting, right? But again, like we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So as a support, you kind of get to be that main tank in that scenario. Where am I going to put my 1? So where do you want to put your 1 right now? Right? Well, I mean, your Ruckus is kind of fighting stuff. Your Ruckus is in there. Okay, well, your Ruckus just fed. Maybe there's nothing you can do about that. Maybe you also just did the walk down mid thing that their supports have been doing. Cover. Where do you go? Where do you go instead? Let's draw lanes. Where do you go? Do you think mid is safe? No. No, it's not. So where do you go? Go to an offlane. Here's kind of iffy. Like this is kind of, I don't know how I feel about this area. It's not great. Here, a lot better. You get to go underneath. You get cover. You get a room to play in. You get to leave that room. It's really good. So go there. But follow your team above all else.
Look out.
If you are forced to walk down mid, use cover, go inside the little hut there in the middle. What's your Nard doing? She's gonna kill the Willow. No, the Willow's gonna flutter to spawn. What's going on back here? No way. Okay.
Alright, they getting hot.
That's silly. Alright, well, we wait for her to come back. Oh, just kidding. What should he be recognizing right about now? Why did that Willow die? Let's do this from first person, sorry. And just specifically looking at blue players. Okay, well, your team gets an instant pick. That's cool. Alright. So let's look at what your team's doing. You have one person down mid, your Ruckus is top left, your Tyro's on the right side. Well, you're kind of just walking it down mid. Are you going to get punished for this? Probably not, they're all dead. Doesn't really matter what you do. Again, what's that envelop? So you wasted ult, no reason to use envelop. And are we thinking about who needs ult charge? What's your Tyro doing? Like, you were in a fine position, you're healing your NR, but right now you should be going, oh crap, what the hell is my Tyra doing? I need a whole W. And you should be walking in. And you should have linked to her, and you could have enveloped, and if you didn't waste ult on that Leon earlier, maybe you can save her. Maybe you turn this 5v4 into a 5v3. And now look at what your Ruckus is doing up top. That's a 1v1. Now, I don't know how it's even. I don't think your Ruckus was full HP or whatever. Who cares? This is the situation that they're in right now. What should you do? Well, you should help your Ruckus. Turn it into a 2v1, right? What is that going to do? It's going to make him win the fight. And what happens? That's exactly what you do. Did you have the biggest impact? No, but that's exactly the thing that you want to do. Now, right now, I'd be turning around. What is getting McCall ulted? Someone is trying to press an advantage somewhere. I'm going to show up there. I'm going to say, nope, we are even. We are holding this ground. We are not going to die this McCall ult. Now, it turns out it's you getting McCall ulted because you were kind of in mid. But that's... I wouldn't have expected him to go for you, to be honest. I would have expected him to be on Leon. But yeah, I guess you were kind of in mid. So, again, don't walk down mid. You do the same thing from back here. I got carried away with talking about numbers. Or over here. Or here. Follow your team.
Okay, real talk. I'm gonna stop that guy. Alright.
Now, like,
They're getting hot.
it doesn't matter. Because your Leon is carrying you, right? She's using her abilities on the people who have no cover and they are dying, right? Like, you could be making this so much easier. So, on an individual level, your alts were used to heal when you have a healing ability. Like, your alts should be to save, not heal. Your envelop should be used for a reason. Don't just use it for no reason. You were using it randomly a lot. You need to be with your team. You need to match your team's tempo, right? You also need to use cover. These are very big concepts. Like, these two, save your ult to save people and not to heal. This also applies to Grover and to Ying, Lilith to a point, Grok to a point, Io maybe, right? You don't want to use your ult if you don't have to, if you're trying to save people, right? You'd rather just use your abilities. Your abilities are on very short cooldowns. Your ult is on like a 60-second cooldown. For envelop, I mean, again, you just want to have a reason. You want to make sure you're using it for something. You're just getting forced for no reason. Playing with your team, playing with your team, matching your team's tempo, and then using cover. These two are like the biggest, the two biggest factors out of like how supports work. If you are with your team and you match their tempo, that's support. That is what you do. You will do great. Cover is how you don't become the Genos and Ceres from last game, where you're just dying randomly for no reason. You just use cover, and being with your team is going to help with that too. So use cover, match the team's tempo, and play with your team. Now on a macro level, numbers above all else. Push when you have an advantage, back up when you have a disadvantage. When you have an even fight, like a 3v3, wait until you get an advantage or a disadvantage. Having more alts than the other team is an advantage. Having more health than the other team is an advantage. Having more cooldowns than the other team is an advantage. Having better positioning is an advantage. So, or at the very least, better positioning lets you get an advantage. But, like, you get the idea, right? So, numbers, and let's see. Remember that you are +1. That's your job. Choose where you want to add that +1 to. So yeah, not the most interesting match ID, not the most interesting game, but some cool concepts I think that kind of show why it wasn't close, and some stuff for you to work on. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.
Ray.
This is the build you should be using. Bye bye. Oh my god, you weren't running ammo card. What are you doing?